If you are a parent of a child with a communication delay or a speech and language disorder, then this episode of the Speech and Language Kids podcast is for you. I am speech language pathologist Carrie Clark, and today I'm going to be showing you how to do speech therapy at home, including how to choose what to work on and how to work on it. So we're going to be going over all of that today. So welcome to the Speech and Language Kids podcast. If you are new to me, I run the website Speech and Language Kids, and then we have our hub, which is our membership area where I am recording this podcast live. So if you would like to participate in our live recordings in the future, you can head over to hub.speechandlanguagekids.com. We are also going to be doing a very fun, speechy virtual summer camp starting in June of 2025, and that is coming up very soon. So we're going to be releasing information about that. It is a way for you to help your child at home get caught up on language skills. So stay tuned, and we'll give you all the details on that. Hey, Missy. Hey, Tony Ann. Welcome. You guys can pop over into the chat and say hello and ask questions as we go along. All right, so today we're going to talk about how to do speech therapy at home. So I'm going to start this with my normal disclaimer that, of course, this information, this advice is not supposed to be replacing you going to a speech therapist. We always recommend that you seek a consultation with someone in your area who can give you specific information about your child. But I do know that a lot of times it takes a long time to get into the therapist, or maybe you're just wanting some tips to boost communication skills for a child who is maybe a little bit behind, but not so far that we need therapy. So I wanted to make sure that you guys had the information you need to be able to do this at home, whether you're waiting to get into a therapist or you just want to boost those language skills at home. So let's start. I'm going to give you kind of a whole framework here of how to walk you through this process of figuring out how to help your child who's struggling in communication skills. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to narrow it down to the specific area of communication that the child is having trouble with. A lot of times when I have families come to me, they might know that there's something wrong or that something isn't quite seeming the way that it seems for other children, but they don't really know how to describe it. They don't know how to put their finger on it. And so we start very simply by just narrowing it down to the area of communication that is impacted. Now, if you already know what this child needs to work on, you are already in therapy and you know what they're working on in therapy, then you can skip ahead to the section where I'm going to tell you about actually working on those skills. But if you are in that boat where you're not quite sure what to work on, then this is where we start. So we look at the main areas of communication, and those are speech, language, which are different. I'm going to explain it, voice or resonance, fluency, social communication, and functional communication. So let's go through each of those so you have an overview of what each one is. So speech sounds is our ability to actually pronounce the sounds. So if your child is talking, but they are hard to understand, or you're noticing that they have errors on specific speech sounds, then that is going to be the speech area as opposed to the language area. Language is made up of all of the different language skills, all of the different use and understanding of words to create sentences. We're talking about grammar and syntax and vocabulary and their ability to comprehend what is being said to them and follow directions and ask and answer questions. All of those things are language. So speech is just how it sounds. Language is kind of everything else. So that area covers most of our kids that come to us with communication challenges. It's the language piece. That's usually what we're looking at, unless it is because they sound hard to understand. Okay, so that's speech and language. We also have, let's go with the social communication, because the social communication piece, that is how we're actually using our language and our speech to interact with other people. So those are our social skills. So that's a third area that sometimes we need to look at. We also have fluency, which is how fluidly or how smoothly we can speak. So if a child is struggling with stuttering or word finding, where they're the thing, That is fluency because our thoughts are not coming out fluidly. Okay, so that's fluency. Then we have voice and resonance is the actual quality of the voice. So if we have a child who is talking really gravelly, or maybe they lose their voice a lot, or maybe they sound like they have a cold, their nose is always sounding kind of stuffy, or maybe you even hear air kind of coming out of the nose while they speak, all of that goes into that realm of voice and resonance. It's how the voice sounds. And then the last one we have is functional communication. And this is when we look at children who are either not talking yet or maybe who aren't speaking a lot, and they're just not able to get their basic wants and needs communicated with other people. Then we're looking at functional communication. Okay, so those are the main 6 areas that I like to focus on in my resources and my membership. And we actually have a screening checklist that you can go through and actually answer questions, and it'll tell you which of those areas is impacted. So if you're not sure, go to hub.speechandlanguagekids.com. You can grab a free membership. Our screening checklist is included with the free membership, and you can fill that out and kind of see which area you're looking at. But once you have that area narrowed down, and sometimes I will say, sometimes we need to pick one, even if there's multiple ones being impacted. If functional communication is a challenge, we always start there because we want them to have a functional way of communicating before we move on to those other skills. But you may have to decide between a couple if there's multiple areas impacted. So you narrow it down to the area. Then we're going to narrow it down to a specific challenge that we want to work on first. And again, you might have to make some choices here because there's probably a lot of things, a lot of skills, a lot of challenges that this child is having. And we want to focus on the ones that will make the most difference for them the quickest. So we want to think about what will actually make a real impact. Being able to interact with our friends, being able to get our basic wants and needs met, being able to establish relationships and maintain them, those are really important skills. And so we can choose the specific challenges that child, that's most meaningful to that child, to your child, okay? So what we can do, we actually, inside the hub, we have more checklists for each area where you can narrow it down. But what I'm talking about for a specific challenge is, let's say we're in speech, we're going to look and see, is it specific sounds they're struggling with? Is it a class of sounds? Is it a motor speech problem? Is it mumbling? And so we can choose which of those specific areas we want to target and select that as the one we'll work on. For language, we can look at, okay, is it asking and answering questions? Is it knowing the names of things, vocab skills? Is it using grammatically correct sentences? Is it retelling past events? So we're narrowing it down. We know it's language. Now we're going to narrow it down to the specific language skill that they're struggling with that we want to work on first. Now, when we're working in therapy, we often work on multiple skills at once, but that's a lot. And as a mom myself, I can tell you, I know that's not how life works. We can't just include all of these skills that we want to work on all at once because we are going to get overwhelmed. The child is going to get overwhelmed. So we focus on one. We pick one area that we want to work on. And again, I've got the checklist if you need help choosing that area. From there, then we're going to get even more nitty-gritty and we're going to narrow it down to one specific skill. So let's say we've decided that we want to work on helping our child learn to ask and answer questions. Well, I'm not just going to expect them to ask and answer all questions forever right now. I'm going to pick one. So I might say, let's talk about who questions, or where questions, or when questions, the ones that are really tripping them up. And again, you can just pick if there's more than one that needs to be worked on. But you're going to choose that very specific skill. And now we're ready to dive in for the therapy, okay? So like I said, if you already know what skill that they need to work on, maybe you have a speech therapist that you can ask that's working with your child and you can say, what would be good for us to work on at home? Then you can just go straight to that individual skill. But those first steps of narrowing it down to the area, then narrowing it down to the specific challenge, then narrowing it down to the specific skill, that's to help you figure out what to work on. And that's what's included on the checklist inside the hub. So once we have the skill, now we're ready to start working, okay? And so here's the magic to teaching anything to your child ever, including other skills besides speech and language, is we want to find the version of that skill that they can do and then gradually work our way up. So that might mean making this skill super, super easy at first and then building them up. There's a couple different ways to think about this. So one way would be, how does this naturally develop in young children? So for example, if we want to teach where questions to a child, what is the easiest version of where questions that babies learn first? And I can tell you it's usually, where's your nose? You say, where's your nose? And they point to their nose and everyone gets really excited. So they're not being expected to answer verbally. They're just all they have to do is touch their nose. Okay, that's a really simple where question. So you can ask your child, where's your nose, and help them point to their nose as a beginning step. So we figure out what version of this skill can they do, and then we work our way up. Let's say it's a speech sound. So they're having trouble with their R sound. Okay, well, can they just make the R by itself like this? Can you look at me and say, And if they can, we start with that. We say, okay, great, just say I don't want you to say words with R in it. Let's just practice that sound. We practice it a whole bunch of times in a row. Whatever version of the skill they can do, we make it as easy as possible, or we help them to get to a point where they're successful. And then we gradually work our way up to a more complicated version of the skill. And that is what our therapy plans do inside the hub. We have all of these laid out. We make it a step-by-step plan. Here's the easiest version of the skill. Here's the next one. Here's the next one. And we step you through it. So we've actually got all of those inside the hub in the full membership if you need that. But you can also just do these exercises in your brain at home and say, okay, what would be an easier version of this skill? What kind of support could I give my child to be able to do this successfully? And then how can I make it one baby step harder? And then one baby step harder after that. And we gradually go through. And I mean gradually. Sometimes this takes weeks. Okay? So what does this actually look like when we're sitting at home with our child? What does our day look like if we're trying to help boost those communication skills, do this speech language therapy at home? What I recommend is you do 5 minutes a day. That's it. It's so simple when we say it, but I know sometimes finding 5 minutes a day is impossible, but that's what we're going to shoot for, just 5 minutes a day. So you're going to tell your child, hey, we're going to work on this skill. All we have to do is 5 minutes. Are you ready? I like to set a timer because I think being able to see the 5 minutes going by can help keep us on track, and it motivates the child because they know they only have to do it for 5 minutes and then they can be done. And so for 5 minutes, you're going to see how many times you can get them to practice that skill successfully. So going back to our example, if it's R, how many times can we get them to say the sound by itself, not in words, because that's not successful yet, by itself, over and over and over for 5 minutes? Okay, what we're doing is we're reinforcing the brain pathway that this is the correct way to do this skill. We do over and over again for 5 minutes. Then the next day, when we work with them, over and over again for 5 minutes, but maybe we see if we can get them to do the next slightly harder version of that. Can we say R? Can we get a vowel attached to that R? Or maybe now we're not saying, where's your nose? We're saying, where's the ball? And having them point to something in the room, not on themselves, but in the room. So we're asking them we're playing with it, right? We're trying to come up with different ways to help them practice that skill successfully that are maybe a little harder than we did yesterday without hitting that frustration ceiling where they shut down. So that's the key, is just finding that zone. So 5 minutes a day is all you're going to sit down and work with your child. But here's what happens when you work with your child 5 minutes a day on something. Your brain is now tuned into that skill, and you are going to hear it come up or see opportunities to mention it again throughout the day, just in a natural interaction. And that's what I want. So I want 5 minutes a day of intense practice where you're actually sitting down and trying to get them to do it. And if they do it, great. And if not, don't beat yourself up, because I can tell you as a parent and a speech therapist, working with my own child is so much harder than working with anyone else's. It's something about mom trying to get you to do something that is very different than if a teacher or a speech therapist outside of the family tries to get you to do that thing. So don't beat yourself up if they won't sit down and work with you. But we try, we introduce, we talk about the skill. And then throughout the rest of the day, just every once in a while, I want you to just point it out. At first, it's just, oh, listen, that word has R sound. Rain. I hear the R sound. Rain. How about that? Moving on. That's it. We just mention it. Maybe we're modeling it. So they say, it's waning outside. And you say, yes, raining. It is raining. Wow, it's really raining. And we're modeling and exaggerating the skill. Maybe we point to our mouth while we're saying it. We're giving them opportunities to know that that skill is a thing that comes up in every day. We're drawing their attention to it. And if they are amenable, we are asking them to also use the skill. Or maybe we're giving them a prompt. Maybe throughout the day, we're saying, where is my spatula? Where did I put it? Do you see it? Where is it? Remember, where means place. I need a place that I put my spatula. Where is it? Here it is. Here is my spatula. So we're just bringing it up naturally throughout the day. And you do not need to do this all day, every day. I don't think that would be a very good idea because your child is going to get so sick of you bringing it up. But just every once in a while, naturally bring it up as it comes up. And then tomorrow we work on it for 5 minutes again. We remind them a couple more times throughout the day. And so what that does is it gives everybody a quick reminder, your brain and their brain, hey, remember, we're working on this skill. And then we just have a couple of little spots throughout the day where we bring it up. Maybe it's while we're driving in the car. That's a really great time to do it because they're a captive audience. They're right there with you. But we're coming up with ways to bring it up around them. And then each day we just see if they're ready to move to a little bit harder version of that skill. Are they ready to maybe say a word now with the R sound? And then after we've done words for a while, okay, now maybe we're going to see if we can say a sentence with an R sound or maybe just a 2-word phrase. And so we just see where we are and where we can get to. And the idea is you want to push them a little bit past their comfort zone because their comfort zone is what we're trying to improve upon, right? So we want to push them a little past their comfort zone, but not so far that we hit the frustration ceiling where they shut down. And you're going to know where that is because you're their parent and you've been working with them on other skills that they need to do, like brushing their teeth and eating foods, right? So you can find where that ceiling is. And when you know you're approaching that, just back off. And sometimes that means backing off for a while. Sometimes we need to give it a break. Sometimes we say, okay, we're going to give it a week, no speech for a week. Just let it simmer. Because I will tell you, I have had so many clients who I felt like were stuck and we hit a plateau and we weren't making any more progress and I was beating my head against the wall, feeling so frustrated. And then they go home for winter break or summer break or spring break, some time when I didn't see them for a while. And they come back and what do you know? They've got that skill. And I go, I worked so hard and it happened while I wasn't even here. Yes, and it happens all the time because sometimes their brain needs a break to process and let it sink in and then come back at it fresh. So don't feel bad if you need to take a break and step back, but then come back to it and say, okay, now let's try it. Or switch to a different skill, model a different skill for a while and come back to that one later. There's all these different ways that we can do it. And it doesn't have to be this stressful, onerous thing where you think, okay, I have to sit down with my child for an hour a day and we have to practice these and do these drills and we've got to make this happen. It's not going to happen that way. Everybody's going to get burnt out. Make this something that you gradually work into your routine. Doesn't have to take a lot of time. If you need the materials, the stuff broken down so that you have the practice and you have exactly how to make this skill easier and step through the phases, go into the hub and grab those materials. I've got therapy plans for all the different skills and you can access that. But all we have to do is just 5 minutes a day of practice and then bring it up a couple times throughout the day. All right. Those of you who are with me in here live, wow, welcome guys. I see a bunch of you. Hop over into the chat and ask me what questions you have, or if there's a specific skill you want to hear some suggestions for, put those into the chat. Now, I will also tell you, starting June 2nd, we are going to be doing a virtual summer camp for adults. This is an opportunity for you to have a program, have a system, and have some accountability and some support to help your child this summer. So we're going to do a 6-week virtual summer camp, meaning you're just going to log into our private site. You don't have to go anywhere. And each week, I'm going to give you some assignments that are tailored to your child's level. And these are specifically for boosting language skills. So we're talking about asking and answering questions, following directions, being able to retell a story, being able to provide information, syntax, vocab, all of those are included in this. Because with our summer camp for parents, your ticket to summer camp is also going to include one grade level of our core language program, which is our 16-week oral language intervention, but we're going to be smushing it into 8 weeks. So you're going to be doing 2 lessons a week to get it in over the summer. And this is for children who are entering kindergarten through 6th grade this coming school year. Okay, so if you have a child who's that would be 5 years through 12 or 13, somewhere in that range, anywhere in that range, and they're struggling either in reading or writing or language skills, this program will give you the workbook pages and give you the lessons and the activities you're going to do. We're going to dole it out to you a couple lessons every week, and we're going to have a fun camp theme. So we're going to have camp activities going on to help support you through this and answer your questions and help you help your child. So whether you want to target last year's skills, the grade that they just completed, and get those caught up, or if you want to pre-teach the next year's skills. So if any of you have incoming kindergartners, kids who are just starting kindergarten for the first time next year, you can run them through the kindergarten language skills, and that's going to pre-teach them those skills that they're going to need to be successful in kindergarten and get them ready for the language and the early literacy skills. So that is coming. I don't have the sign up link yet. So if you are with me live, it's not up yet. If you're listening to this as a podcast, it will be up by then. So you can head over to speechandlanguagekids.com and we will have some pop-ups and some information on how you can sign up for our summer camp. We're also going to be doing one in July through August that is for SLPs, for getting organized. So stay tuned for that one too. But the parent one is coming very soon. We'll have that probably up this week or early next. So stay tuned and look for that. I hope to see a bunch of you there. I think it's going to be really fun. We're going to have a lot of fun, but we're also going to help you get through and help your child catch up this summer so that they're not struggling next school year. All right, I'm going to call it for now. If you have any questions or if you'd like help with doing speech therapy at home, come on over to the hub. We've got a discussion board you can post in there, ask your questions, and I'll be happy to help you out and point you toward the resources that you need because you've got this, your kids got this, and we're going to do it together. So come on over and I'd love to help you out. All right, bye for now. See you guys later.